Hello model railroaders. My name's Dave. Welcome back to the layout. Well, I've got a little bit of track laid, about somewhere around 22 feet, I believe, and things have been shuffled around the layout, but I've got 8 more feet of double line track to lay until I get into the corner here. And I figured, well, before I get all my cork and stuff, I need to know where it ends. And to do that, I need to know what my radiuses are that are going to flow around that corner. And I figured, hey, I may as well take the opportunity to show how I do a radius. Now, what I've got is one of these aluminum rulers that's, well, Canada, so it's a meter long. So, I don't know what that actually ends up being in inches. 36, 37, 38, almost 39.5 inches. Google will give you a more precise value. But the aluminum yardstick works really well, or meter stick. What I've done in the very top where the center line silk screening is, I've just with a file made a little bit of a groove just deep enough that the pencil tip will catch in that groove and hold so it won't rotate as the arc is drawn. Now what I've done is down that center line, if I can line it up right, I've got a couple different radiuses drawn in. So I've got a little hole drilled at 20, at 21 1/4, at 22 1/2, and at 23 3/4. And that will give me the radiuses that I need. The only downside is the extra little bit of the meter stick that sticks out past that always catches you as you draw the arc, that you have to try and wiggle away from in drawing it. But I thought I would just show that hack, and because I'm extending past the edge of the bench, all I've done is take a couple pieces of 1x4, screw them together at a 90, and have just quick clamped it to the edge of the bench. So that holds that in place. I draw my mark 23 3/4 down from my line that I've determined will be my center line for my outside line, and then marked 1 1/4 in for my inner line, and I've got the same markings over here, and then just measure the 23 3/4 inches from each outside line to make my square. There's my point, so that when the meter stick arcs around that pivot, that I've got it on my line in both locations. So I thought I would just show you that hack. Now I do need to do a second inner radius on that curve, and also from 2 3/4 inches in, I need to do another radius, which I'm going to do a 20 inch to bring me over on for my inside, which is my spur line that all my industry lines are going to run off of. And that will, as I mentioned in a previous video, where all that cork is piled up in that little crevice there is a track that enters there on an angle, and I need to pull up some of that low chunk of contoured foam there and put a turnout in there so that everything will join up for me. So we'll just zoom back out. So when I'm going to do that line, I've actually got a piece of masonite that I've got a nail hole in, and on the other end I've actually got some marks, one in the very center at 20 inches, and then I've actually drawn some other holes where I know that the track edge is going to be, and out on the end where I know the roadbed is going to be. So that's a quick and dirty check to make sure that when I've got the cork roadbed down, I am going to have enough space when I'm just checking to make sure I'm going to have the clearance. So what I'll do is move this board and clamp it at my center point, and then figure out where my 20-inch radius will end over there, and then use that center point clamp to just pivot it around to the opposite side. Now I only really need to go to about there in my arc, because from that point it'll continue straight across to follow that edge of that side of the layout. But I figure I may as well get all that done, and then tomorrow night, if all is well, I'll be able to get the 9 feet of track doubled, so 18 more feet of track laid, which will bring me up to my curve, and then I can get my cork that I picked up at the train show and start following my pencil line around. And I'll talk about how I lay that cork down in another video that will hopefully be upcoming soon, if I can jam some work down on the layout tomorrow night. And we'll show you that. Now, all the track I've laid down so far, none of it has any of the feeder wires hooked in to the bus line that runs underneath the layout. But I don't know how well it will look in shadow, but that gives you an idea of what's the straight run that I'm going to have for the main line, punching down the back of the layout. And well, straight as I can make it anyway. I am seeing some realistic track wave on the track, but hey, that's just a super detail. Yeah, that's what we'll call it. Some super detailing of laying the track to get that realistic wave that we always see in the, in the line. Well, with that, guys, I'm going to sign off, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now. Something that I had forgotten to mention, as you can see, I've just drawn my 2 arcs across there. When you go to draw your second arc, you actually use the same hole that you used as your pivot point for your outside arc. So they, in fact, when you look at the difference in your lines, I'm at 1 1/4 inches because I'm using the same pivot point. So if I wanted a little more spacing in the curve, then my lead-in points would be would have to shift over, which in that case, if I wanted to keep the same curve radius, I would have had to have moved my point back so that it would back and over a bit, or just over a bit. I'm getting all confused now, but it doesn't matter. you'd have to redo your point if you wanted to keep the same radius curve. But since I'm doing a 23 1/4 external and a 22 1/2 internal curve, I'm able to use the same pivot point. And those are the two curves radiuses that I used down here, actually in the back corner there, so of my outside, and then the other line where the tank cars are, and then the line with the coaling cars, that was at 21 1/4, and then that the line that has no cars on it was at 20 inches. So I made 20 inches my minimum radius curve, and then went outwards from that to get the radiuses I'm using. And I haven't had any issues with cars sideswiping each other or anything of that nature. So I just thought I would give you a little update on that little bit that I'd forgotten about until I actually went to draw my inner radius. So catch you on the next video.